Welcome back to Packs and Picks, and welcome to the first sealed deck I have built for Sorcery Contested Realm. Over the last few days, I opened 6 packs, sorted them by element, and posted those videos over in the Shorts feed, so I won't be going over every card in the pool here, but if you want to see the contents of the pool, go check out those shorts. In this video, I am going to highlight cards that stuck out to me while I built my first deck. Now, while I've been following the game and watching videos, I actually haven't had a chance to build a deck until right now. So I'm sure I'll be making some mistakes in card analysis and deck construction overall, but discovery and improvement are a fun part of the game for any new set that comes out, this game or another game. If anything, it's going to be fun looking back in a few years to see some of the mistakes I made and all the progress that I've made as well. So with that out of the way, let's dive in. This first card here that I've highlighted, Payload Trebuchet. I'm a sucker for trebuchets. I love catapults, medieval warfare, so I'm going to find a way, and I did find a way, to put this in my ultimate deck. I have absolutely no frame of reference if this is good or not, but I'm going to put it in and try it out. Another interesting card, the only unique we got in the sealed pool, was Blasted Oak, and I originally thought this was going to be a great card, but a great card for my deck, but then I realized it wasn't that easy because it looks like it's a symmetric effect, so anything that my opponent casts that can target Blasted Oak has to target it, but anything I cast that can target Blasted Oak also has to target it. So this seems like a very tricky card to build around and play around. I'm really interested to see a deck that really takes advantage of Blasted Oak, but I decided not to put it in my deck this time around. We also got 3 copies of Sleep in the sealed pool, and this one just seemed like it would be really annoying to play against somebody who had so many copies of Sleep in their sealed pool. I didn't end up going with Water in this deck, but something that I still wanted to point out, that it just seemed like it would be really annoying to always have your minions be going to sleep and controlling the board that way. I also got a copy of Extinguish and a copy of Boil, and I thought this was interesting because they are dependent on your opponent playing a certain element, and I'm still not sure if this is an effect that you would put in your deck all the time, or if this is more constructed, geared, because you're kind of relying on your opponent playing a specific element that you might not be able to guarantee in like a limited match. So these are going to stay into the sideboard from now. And then similarly, we got Mortality and Unravel. I think these are kind of similar to Extinguish and Boil. They kill certain types of minions, so mortals and undead minions. This is probably a little more applicable to limited, but I just don't know what the good mortals and undead minions are yet to know if this is worth putting in the main deck, but this is something I'll keep an eye on going forward. Also, Wall of Fire, we got 2 copies of this. This really, it seemed to me like you want to have some effects that push and pull minions around the board, so you could set up your Wall of Fire and then push a minion through it and deal damage to it. I didn't have a lot of those types of effects in the pool, so Wall of Fire didn't make it into the final build. But you could also maybe use this to control how people move around the board too. So maybe minions don't want to move through the Wall of Fire. You're going to force them to walk all the way around. But that's Wall of Fire. And then as far as exceptional sites that we got Vantage Hills. So ranged units at top get +1 range. Pretty straightforward. Secret Tunnel. Burrowed allies can move as if they were adjacent to your other sites. This would have been great if we had a bunch of burrowing allies in our sealed pool, but we really didn't this time. Windmill, just the only 2 element site that we got. Mountain Pass, this is one that I liked the theme of, and it also seemed like it could be very powerful, where only 1 minion can be on this site at a time if it's a ground unit. Watchtower, enemy units atop nearby sites lose stealth. And Undertow, when it comes into play, you can move a target unit in that body of water 1 step. So this is one of the very few effects that I mentioned in our sealed pool that could move a creature, and the other one was in air. So 3 different elements to do that kind of Wall of Fire stuff that I was talking about. But those were our exceptional sites. So let's go into the deck that I actually built. I'll set it up here. Now, I watched a video from one of the developers for Sorcery build a sealed deck, and I'm kind of going off of the rules that they use. So I built a 25 card deck, and I was focusing on doing 12 sites in my atlas. And one of the interesting things was I didn't actually have 25 cards in one single element, so I was kind of forced into going to a 2-element deck, which is fine. I think it's fine, but just one thing to keep in mind, out of 6 packs, I didn't even get to the 25 cards in one element. All right. So I ultimately ended up with an Earth and Fire deck, and one of the things that really drew me to Earth and Fire, on the fire side, I had a decent number of burn spells. So we had Fire Bolts, Disintegrate, Minor Explosion, Heat Ray. These are all your traditional reach out, deal damage to a minion kind of cards. I know those are typically good in most card games, so I wanted to throw those in here. Also, we had cards like Pit Vipers here and the Sirocco Scorpions that have lethal. And lethal just seems like a great way to stall the board out, you know, trade up with other creatures. So I liked those there. And then in Earth, we had the Alvaline Dryads. So just a 2 mana, 1 power, but provides 1 mana on your turn. So it seemed like a great way to maybe ramp up to things like the Payload Trebuchet or some of our bigger creatures. Speaking of the Payload Trebuchet, if I'm reading this interaction correctly, I think one of the mini combos is to discard Bone Rabble to the Trebuchet and then later play an Earth Sight and bring him back out for free. So one little combo in our deck. And then as far as the big creatures at the top end, we've got Amazon Warriors, just a 5/5. We have this Escalon Phoenix, so 5/4 Airborne. And I don't know how much we'll be able to trigger its secondary effect there. We do have things like Fire Bolts, which can ping creatures, but I just liked it as a 5/4 Airborne big creature that can fly around. And then I don't know if we'll ever cast the Mountain Giant, but I want to live the dream of loading this guy in the Trebuchet and flinging it across the board. So that's really why I put the Mountain Giant in. And then as far as avatars go, we did actually get the Flamecaller and the Geomancer. I did decide to go with the Geomancer for this deck because when I look at the Flamecaller, it cares about banishing fire minions with a lot of threshold on them. And for the few fire minions that we are playing, they don't have a lot of threshold, like 2 threshold creatures. We do have that Escalon Phoenix, but that's the only one. Whereas the Geomancer just seemed like I'll be able to get more value over the course of most games being the Geomancer for this deck. And there you have it. That's my first deck for Sorcery Contested Realm. Thank you so much for watching. This isn't going to be the last Sorcery deck I'll be building. I do plan on opening more packs, building more decks, and playing with opponents to see how these decks perform. I'll see you soon.